Hello, this is Lincoln Easley here. Today we are on week 2 in class FFT 217. And today we are going to go over the difference of an AR9, an AR15, and an AR10. So I'm going to go through, talk about the pros and cons. I'm going to compare the three rifles, and I'm going to talk about them and explain the differences, the pros and cons, and we're going to go over this. So the first thing I'm going to mention is a big difference between all of them is the caliber you're shooting. That is one of the biggest difference between these three rifles. So the one caliber I'm going to go over is this is for an AR-10 lower. This is a 10 round capacity magazine. So California state law has it set up to where they're classifying anything over 10 rounds as a high capacity magazine, therefore they made them illegal in California, which is a whole other story. So generally it shoots a 308, which is a pretty good sized bullet. This is a good hunting round for shooting deer, elk. You can go bear hunting with it, so it's a pretty good round. You have your magazine that it goes into. The next capacity we're going to go over is a 223. So we're going to just go through, we're going to set this one aside right here. Now, right here we have the 223. This is a 10 round capacity magazine. Same thing. So generally we have the 223. This is good for bear hunting. It's a very small bullet. It's very, very tiny. It's like pretty much the same diameter as a 22. But I would say this is like a high power 22 rifle, as if I were to give a description of what an AR-15 is. So it's not that big of a bullet compared to an AR-10. So that is the AR-15 right there. Now the next one would be the 9mm. So surprisingly, the AR-9, it uses a Glock 19 magazine. So it's a very universal magazine. So right here is the magazine, 10 round capacity, same thing as all these right here. And that's the bullet right there. It's actually, this is a pretty good bullet. It will give a good punch. It will do the job, but it doesn't have the reach or the power to reach out and touch what you want to touch like these two bullets are able to. So that's the comparison between these three capacities right here. So now we're going to go to the next step, which is going over each individual caliber one step at a time, and I'm going to go through and go from the smallest caliber all the way to the largest caliber and talk about the difference. So the first caliber I'm going to go over is the AR-9. So like I said, the AR-9 works with a Glock 19. What's a big pro on this particular firearm is it's a very universal magazine. You can use this in a Caltex, you could use this in 9mm, you could use, it's otherwise like a Glock 19, and you can also use this in AR-9. So it's a magazine that's very universal. That is a very big pro. Saves a lot of money on magazines when you got to do it that way. The other big pro is the cost of bullets. It costs ammunition. 9mm, especially in California, it is a lot more accessible and it's a lot cheaper to purchase. So one of the differences between this firearm and another is that this has what's called a blowback system. And to describe what a blowback system is when the primer strikes the firing pin strikes the primer and the bullet exits out of the firearm, there's energy and gas that goes through. And what happens is with a blowback system, it has a blowback system where what happens is it pushes a blowback system which goes back, which hits the carrier group, which pulls it back, and that would the recoil of that would catch the shell casing, eject the shell casing, and insert a new shell casing. So that's the blowback system on a fundamental idea of how that would work, because you want to be able to push the energy back, so that way it would actually push the bolt back, pull everything back, eject the shell casing, and insert a new one. And then it would reinsert and it's ready to shoot again. Okay, so for this is going to be the AR-15, and this here is actually a really good round to shoot. It's what I would call an all-around round. So I'm going to go over the pros first on this, and then later on I'm going to go over the cons and everything all over when we're done. So the big pro is you have a bullet that can reach 100 yards. It's not super expensive, but it is pricey. It is easy to get a hold of shell casings. You could reload over and over and over. It's a pretty good bullet. You can go deer hunting with this. You can go hog hunting, or you can go varmint hunting. So you can really use this as a good all-around rifle. It's a good home defense rifle. This is a pretty lightweight rifle that you can carry that's able to do the job. Versus if you had a 9mm, it's still lightweight. It's more what I call a backpack gun, where you can put it in your backpack if you're going to the backcountry and still have it available. Where this here is like more of a rifle you have to carry, so you have a little bit more weight versus the 9mm. Now, when it comes to accuracy and speed and velocity, I mean, this you can't go wrong with this. It's very accurate, very right on the money. I mean, you could 100 yards, you could ping it right on the target within a dime if you have it tuned in properly. So when you're shooting an AR-15 bullet, this is a little bit different system. So the way this works is it's actually going to go through a gas tube. And the way that would work is when you're shooting, the firing pin will strike the primer and hit the primer. The bullet will exit out, which will create a small explosion inside the cartridge, which would accept out the bullet. And then what's going to happen is the gas is going to be going out. It's going to hit what's called a gas block. And that gas block is going to catch some of that gas. It's going to insert it through the gas tube, which is going to go all the way down until it hits a gas key. And then generally what it's going to do is it's going to use that gas to pull that bolt back, which is going to extract the shell casing and insert a new cartridge, then put it back in. Well, in the same process, like this rifle and all these other rifles, they all have buffer tubes. Buffer tubes are going to catch on it, and it's going to actually, you're going to use a buffer tube to actually be able to catch the recoil. So you're going to have very little recoil while shooting this particular rifle. So that's the beauty of the AR style, is you have next to no recoil with shooting these rifles. And somebody with osteoporosis or somebody who's got a hard time, I have a close friend of mine who broke his shoulder, and he is unable to shoot with a lot of recoil because he could actually dislocate his shoulder again. So he has to use AR style in order for him to shoot. So that way he's able to continue shooting and continue the sport that he loves so dearly. So the interesting thing with this is a phenomenal bullet. I mean, you can't go wrong with this as a hunting round. It is pretty accurate up to 100, 150 yards. You could probably go more if you tune in your rifle. So that is the process of how this works. All right, now we're going to be going over and talking about the AR-10. What's amazing about the AR-10, this is like the first of its time. So when AR was first introduced, it was actually the AR-10 was actually introduced to the military. The military did not like them. It was too heavy, it was too bulky. They didn't like it. It was a heavier rifle, but it does shoot at 308. The components in the AR-10 are exactly the same components in the AR-15. So the safety, all the features are exactly the same. It does have a similar aspect of the blowback system. Not the blowback system, but it has the piston system where it actually sends the gas back and hits the gas key. Same exact system. There are slight differences between the bolt carrier, just little things here and there that are consistent. Magazine slightly different, so generally you would have a heavier duty spring, heavier duty buffer tube. One of the big cons on this rifle, or first things first, we'll start in the pro. You can reach out and touch something up to 400 to 500 yards if you really wanted to in 308. This is something that can drop a bear, it can drop an elk. I mean, you could really reach out and hit your target at a long distance shoot. This is a phenomenal rifle for hunters, especially for hunters that have harder time shooting with their shoulders, because it's actually able to catch the recoil. Where if you try to use a 308 hunting rifle, I mean, it's got a little bit of a kick to it, and you could actually hurt yourself if you're not used to catching the recoil or not used to working the recoil. So, beautiful gun for hunting. But you can go deer hunting, elk hunting, hog hunting. I mean, you can coyote hunting. I mean, whatever you like to do when it comes to hunting. So this is a really good round. Home defense, you could use it for a home defense round. I would probably not use this for a home defense round because it's a little bit bigger than I'd want to shoot for a home defense. I'd probably lean more towards the 9mm or the AR style, AR-15 style for home defense. But for an all-around rifle, something to reach out and touch something, this is a rifle I'd want to reach out and hit something at a much further distance. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same exact process as the AR-15 with slight differences, just bigger features to it. But I have seen these in a 300 Win Mag, and they run about $5,000 or more. So you could actually put a lot of money into one rifle if you really wanted to put the money into it. Okay, so now we're going to go through, and since I mentioned all the positives on this, now I'm going to mention all the cons. So we're going to go back to 9mm. First, I'm going to get all these out so I can explain. So a big con on 9mm, you don't have the reach that you want for this. Sometimes the recoil could actually make the rifle jump a little bit, because it's a blowback system, so they can actually reach the cause of the jump, which is a big problem with this. I mean, it's not a real big problem, but if I were to create, if there was going to be where I was going to critique, that would probably be the one thing I would mention. Yes, it is a lighter rifle. Maybe the cost would, I mean, if you have to, cost is an issue. California, you're pretty much taking a rifle, they're trying to classify assault rifle, so you have to put features on it which could hinder or make the rifle even more unsafe to shoot, which that could be a very big con for this particular rifle. But nothing wrong with the blowback system. It works, it's very simple, it does the job. You can shoot at 100 yards with this. There's a little bit more of a delay in your shoot, but otherwise it's not a big deal. I mean, it does hit out and touch the target, but this would be more for close range shooting versus distance shooting. So that's its own category right there for the con. Now for the AR, it's a good rifle. You can reach out and touch something at 100 yards. It is a rifle that can get in your way when you're trying to carry it. Cost is way up there. It's pretty expensive to purchase this kind of rifle, but it's not a bad rifle. It will do the job you want it to do. It's a good hunting round, mostly for smaller game. Like you can hit deer, you can drop bear, you could take a bear down. I wouldn't recommend it. In fact, you might tick the bear off, make them mad if you try to shoot a bear with an AR-15. I just don't know if this would work so well, and this has enough punch to take down a bear. So that could be a very big con if you try to use this for bear hunting. But otherwise, I mean, components, everything aren't too bad. It's got a medium weight to it, but it does have some con. But it does, you can't reach out and hit the long shot with this as easy. So this is more for 100, 150 yard range of what you're trying to shoot. And last but not least, we have the AR-10. This is for the long range shooting. It's one of the big cons is this is a heavy rifle, way heavier to shoot. So if you're out hunting and you got to carry this for 3 or 4 miles, it's not going to be fun. It's like carrying a weight around. So that's the one downfall on this particular rifle, is the weight. Another big one is the cost. I mean, these rifles are stupid expensive to purchase once they're all built and done. And I mean, I love this rifle to death. I mean, it's a lot of fun to shoot. The rounds are extremely expensive to purchase. These can run as much as $40 a box in California, so that's not a whole lot of fun when you have to shoot that. So otherwise, that's the big cons on these. I mean, for these particular firearms, they are really good firearms to shoot. They're a lot of fun. I have no complaints on any one of these. I shot every single one of these firearms and I love every single one. I'm not going over and picking them apart and trying to detail them to the extreme. It's just, it's good to have a good profile of what you prefer, knowing what it's designed for and what you would have a best preference point for what you want to use these particular rifles for, whether you're going hunting, home defense, home protection. I mean, they all have their purpose. So this is the video of the difference between an AR9, an AR15, and an AR10. Have a great day and be happy shooting, be safe, and have a good time.